there are people that don't have mental health. They've normalized fear. They've normalized where they wake up with it. They actually think that's a normal condition. Well, worry, doubt, fear, anxiousness, and anxiety is not normal, even though we've normalized it. It's an aberrant. It means we're off center. You see now, since the lockdown of healthy people a few years ago, we got to get our mental health together. That's like a thing now. And so I think that you're not going to get your mental health together unless you get into spiritual integrity. All problems are mental or emotional or psychological. All solutions are spiritual, 100%.
Greetings and welcome to the Dr. Espen podcast. I'm Espen. Today I'm joined by one of my personal heroes, if I may say so. This is Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith. Michael Beckwith is a member of the Oprah Super Soul 100 group and the founder of Agape Center, which I believe is Greek for unconditional love. And Michael is a trailblazing figure in the realm of spirituality. As the #1 best-selling author and influential spiritual voice, his teachings and ideologies have not only guided and influenced people across the world, but also been catalyzed the profound transformations in the lives of millions of people globally. His impact extends beyond the literary world, as he's addressed the UN General Assembly and co-founded the Association for Global New Thought, hosting conferences featuring influential figures such as the Dalai Lama and presenting the Gandhi King Award to Nelson Mandela. Michael Beckwith's success lies in the approach to spirituality and personal development. And this is why I'm really excited to have this conversation today, because there is so much available to us within. And I'm sure we'll cover that in some of the questions that we'll go through. Michael's influence and teachings continues to resonate with those seeking spiritual growth for personal transformation, aligning him with renowned figures such as Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, and many others, and also earning the praise from Oprah Winfrey for his profound insights into the essence of the human experience. So I, for one, want to say it's a true privilege and pleasure to have this opportunity to ask some quality questions and go really deep today. Michael, how are you today, mate?
I am outstanding. I'm always have a certain level of joy that's just beaming, and it's good to be with you.
Absolute privilege and pleasure. So I'd like to ask first, when we talk about the evolution of consciousness and where we are as humans right now, you've been obviously practicing a deep, profound connection to spirit and practicing spirituality for quite a while. What do you think is the next step for us as humans now, irrelevant of where we are? What are some of the keys that we need to pay attention to in order to either expand our consciousness, to heal, or to just experience beautiful lives? What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I look back on the arc of the evolution of our species over the last 30, 40, 50 years, a lot of the things that we're talking about now, back then were woo-woo. It was, unscientific. What are those people talking about? Why are they sitting with their eyes closed? And so in the arc of the last 40 years, the things that are basically ageless wisdom that's been here for thousands of years, taught by many spiritual adepts, have now flooded the marketplace. I think the indigenous cultures said that in their prophecies that this would be the time in history where all of the secrets and all of the mystery schools would be unreleased. So now you see these teachings basically on the internet. You see them all over the place, young kids, young people teaching these things. So I think that speaks to the fact that the consciousness of humanity is being inundated with a whole new way of seeing reality. It's not just through the five senses. It's not just through the sensorium. It's actually, the word consciousness used to be way far away in people's awareness. They didn't want to use that word. Now that word is pretty much normal in our language. So, I teach that, we are pure awareness in a field of infinite consciousness. And so we don't go up or down because there's no height nor depth in it, but we keep expanding our awareness. So what I'm seeing here is that society is being imprinted now with these teachings. some consciously studying, practicing, going to places like, what you had recently with Kelly Gora's, and actually, or they're being imprinted unconsciously because it's just in the society. So what I see is that people are beginning to understand that their body can heal anything. They don't have to accept a prognosis from a doctor. They can actually do something about it. They're beginning to accept that conditions, circumstances, and situations don't determine your destiny, that your destiny is determined by your attitude. Your attitude develops your character develops your destiny. So people are more and more, not everyone, there's still a lot of sleepwalkers, obviously, but more and more people are beginning to understand that their destiny lies within them, within their choices, within their intention, with how they talk to themselves, how they talk to each other, their practice of meditation, etc. So I have a tremendous, it's more than hope. I have a tremendous spiritual optimism about humanity taking the next leap into being sovereign, being directly connected to spirit, not looking outside of themselves for power, or not looking outside of themselves for happiness and joy, or following some kind of authority other than the inner authority of their connection with the present. So I think even though things are fluxed up right now in many ways in the world, I think it just portends a tremendous healing, a tremendous releasing of that which no longer works for the birth and the emergence of that which is trying to happen. So I hope I'm kind of answering your question there. Yeah.
100%. That was actually my next point. Is this a rebirth of humanity from lower states of consciousness into, finding ourselves or coming home? What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's all, whenever you expand your awareness of that which is real, it feels like a homecoming. So I would say it's reestablishing some things that indigenous cultures knew, some very wonderful beings on the planet, but now it's becoming more mass. So, and I think that there's an evolution of the expansion of our awareness that we've never seen before. I think we're about to unlock a dimension of power and a dimension of inner authority on a larger scale than we've ever experienced before. And so even though you go back thousands of years, there have been cultures that have harnessed the power of the mind, the power of the heart, the power of their language to create. But I think there's an upward cycle. So I think that the next cycle is, if we make it, which I believe we will, is going to be even more powerful than we've ever experienced before.
It seems like that. And it certainly seems that, as I say in some of my teachings also, what spirituality has been teaching for thousands of years, what the ancient indigenous cultures have known, practiced, even though it seems to be spoken and shared in different languages and different stories, what is around the world in different cultures often speaks to the same thing, this coming home, this awakening, this healing, and this rebirth. And so I find it interesting how now in quantum physics, for example, we know that we're made up of consciousness, and such a tiny, tiny part of who and what we are is actually physical, 5 or 6 if you include thought, senses. And so now that we know, and science is quote unquote finally catching up to what these spiritual principles have been, speaking to and sharing with us for so long, we get to actually realize that this potential lies within. So I'd like to ask, when we do this, Michael, and when we realize who and what we are, and we realize our connection to source, what might be some of the things that we would focus on now? I mean, we may see chaos in the world. We're at the brink of war. And I agree with you. I truly do believe in my heart of hearts that this is, the light has won, if there is such a thing. We are coming home, and we're doing it. But I want to get your thoughts on the matter. In the world of chaos, how does one find and maintain peace?
Well, the layman's understanding of chaos is, if you can step back far enough from chaos, you'll see an underlying order trying to emerge. That's called chaotic. It's chaos, but it's a birth of order. So when we see all of this fragmentation and the dissolving of structures that no longer serve humanity, whether it be the medical system, the educational system, the legal system, food system, whatever. You see there's a disruption happening in these systems. They're becoming decadent. They're out of cadence with that which is trying to emerge. So people need to understand that just as there's a tremendous chaos that happens with any birth, whether it's the birth of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, a mother giving birth to a baby, a seed breaking open, creating roots and shoots. There's always chaos for the next birth, but there's an underlying order. So as people begin to develop a modicum of spiritual practice, you're able to pull away from the world of appearances and what looks like chaos, and then you're able to go in, feel the implicate order within inside of your being. And then you begin to see it. And as you indicated, not with the five senses, you begin to see it with your awareness. You begin to live in a different world. You see opportunities, you see possibilities, you see coincidences, you see serendipity, you see synchronicities, you see all manner of things that are operating that you couldn't even see before because individuals were time blinded. They were blinded by time and matter, so they couldn't see what was right in front of them, which is a field of infinite potential and infinite possibilities. So in a cosmos, there is only chaos giving way to order. But when we're really close to it and we don't have the vision, we just think it's all chaos, you see. But there's an order trying to emerge. And that's what I've seen, that's what I feel inside of my heart.
I love this. And I love this saying, we faith it until we make it, because we know that it's emerging. And if we were to consider this a rebirth, then of course, even though it may be somewhat challenging, for some very challenging, I think the essence of the birth itself is just such a divine opportunity. So thank you for speaking to that and giving us even more of a faith for the journey that we're on. Yes. I'd like to ask you, please, sir, if I may, what are some of the biggest challenges you believe that we may face as individuals and also as a collective consciousness in this path to release, if you will?
Well, there's a couple. I'll hit at it at a couple of angles. One, the Earth herself has become more conscious. And so her frequency is vibrating a lot higher. We have to acclimate to that vibration. And so the anxiety, the anxiousness, the worry, the doubt, the fear that many human beings have normalized, a lot of that is because they're out of alignment with the Earth's frequency, and they're out of alignment with their own soulful promise. What do I mean by that? Before we even took an incarnation, we made a promise that when we came to this planet, we would deliver certain gifts, talents, we would contribute to the next great evolution of all sentient beings. When we landed, we got imprinted by the world of appearances, conditions, circumstances, parental fantasies, religious fantasies, societal fantasies, and many people have forgot that they said they were going to be about something before they even got here. So now you have the world of appearances imprinted. You have the vibration of all these beings waking up, and you have the Earth vibrating at a higher level. So that means that those that haven't yet remembered, there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of polarization, a lot of separation, a lot of living from the survival reptilian brain. So that's a whole dynamic that we see in the world. And then there are other people who are doing spiritual practices. And when obviously both of us know when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about what our real nature is. We're spiritual beings having a human incarnation. And we're seeking to ride this wave of evolution or unfoldment of a perfect spiritual idea that's manifesting now. And so individuals, some people are having, they feel like they're crazy inside because nothing is making sense. So I think you're seeing a lot of people seeking to anesthetize themselves against what's happening within them through drugs, alcohol, shopping, whatever the case may be, accumulating stuff, things of that particular nature. And you see other groups of people who are waking up, and even though they're demonstrating a level of abundance and prosperity and health, their life is becoming more simpler, you know. So I think that the ones that challenge mental health. With all of this happening, there are people that don't have mental health. They've normalized fear. They've normalized where they wake up with it. They actually think that's a normal condition. Well, worry, doubt, fear, anxiousness, and anxiety is not normal, even though we've normalized it. You know, it's an aberrant. It means we're off center. And so I think that's a big challenge that we're all facing. You see now, since the lockdown of healthy people a few years ago, that's a catchphrase now. We got to get our mental health together. We got to get our mental health together. You know, that's like a thing now, you know. And so I think that you're not going to get your mental health together unless you get into spiritual integrity. All problems are mental or emotional or psychological. All solutions are spiritual, 100%. You know, I mean, lasting solutions. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I love this. And, you know, it's interesting when you view the world, and as you mentioned, seemingly chaos. And what is order without chaos? How can you have one without the other, the darkness without the light? I think realizing who we are and coming home in that process is profound. I want to ask you quickly about healing. Yeah. Because you mentioned, you know, the old paradigm, and I know you're well versed in this with Agape and the amazing work that you've done with millions of people around the world. My hypothesis on this is pretty simple. It seems like for a long time, we have been looking, as you mentioned, outside of ourselves for solutions to the doctors and the surgeons and the nurses and the drugs for healing and or validation, including the belief that I am broken or there is a diagnosis which equals a label, which then imprints in the cellular structure. And of course, then we create that. So I wanted to ask about, you know, or what we may refer to as innate intelligence. Yeah. I had an experience when I was first arrived from Norway to Australia. I broke both my legs on a motorcycle. I got a staph infection from the hospital. And I fought for my life with this staph infection, systemic infection, for a year and almost 2 months. I was 15 kilos lighter. I knew in my heart intuitively that I was dying. And even though a staph infection is, you know, not very responsive to any type of antibiotics, they still pumped me full of these drugs just in case. And as such, I had to do something different. And one day in 2008, a spirit came through me like a lightning bolt and just said, leave the hospital and go home and start breathing. And so I was riddled with fear for a long time. I didn't have any family or friends. And so I did what I was told. And I looked outside of myself for these answers. Which then, of course, you know, almost, took my life away. And I believe Spirit and God just came through me and said, listen, let me show you what's possible when you tap into the true essence of who you are. And so I left the hospital, I ripped the intravenous out, and I went home and I sat up on my bed and I started breathing. And in the matter of 3.5 weeks, having fought for my life with this staph infection for well over a year, I managed to heal. And so I'd like to ask your opinion, please, sir, one, on healing and the innate capacity for profound physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional healing that we have inside of us. And two, what your thoughts are in terms of what how breath may play a role in this, please.
First of all, congratulations. I'm glad you're healthy. I'm glad you're alive. You
got 2 legs.
You followed the inner prompter. You followed the real authority within your own awareness, and you went home and you breathed. So in doing your breathing, you know, obviously there's prana, there's the life force in the air. And so instead of going through drugs and that which would mask a symptom and ultimately tear up your own immune system and make you weaker and weaker and weaker as you went on, you went right to the source. I mean, breath, spirit, you know, when you talk about spirit, it means breath as well.
Same word.
So when you went into breath with intention to heal, your body, obviously, the pH balance of your body changed. The oxygenation of your blood changed. The coagulation of your blood became more fluid. The fibrin in your blood began to disappear. This is what happens when you breathe properly, deeply, regularly. And when the body, when the condition is right, healing happens. Whenever we put our body in the proper condition, that's not putting external things within us unless those things are whole, natural, a part of real nutrition, then the body temple can, I teach that the body temple can heal anything if the condition is right. And like yourself, I have worked with people on the brink of death that, and they were young people, they weren't like 98, they were young 20s, 30s, that, and we got the body in the proper condition. We worked with their mind first, make sure that they really wanted to live. They established an intention. I have them read certain things so that they're always reinforcing their awareness of wanting to live. And then we shifted what doesn't go in the body. You're not putting that white stuff in your body. You're not putting that sugar in your body. You're not doing any of that, And then when the condition is right, the body heals. Now, I often speak about the fact that the three modalities of healing. There's natural healing, herbs, things, real good nutrition. You're eating natural foods that the body can actually digest and use. And then there's supernatural healing. Supernatural healing is like Qigong, Reiki. It's natural, but you're extending your energetic field through your hands or your spoken word or your eyes. Even your eyes carry a certain frequency. If you look at someone with a tremendous amount of love, so there's supernatural healing. And then there's spiritual healing. Spiritual healing is when you do what is necessary to expand your awareness. And when you expand your awareness, then since the body, you're not in your body necessarily, you're focused here, but the body is in your field. The body is in your field of awareness. When you expand your awareness to a level of love and wholeness and wellness and well-being, then the body starts to respond to that. The body of your affairs start to respond to that. So you went home, and you went home not just physically, but you went home spiritually with the breath, with intention, and with sincere practice. You did it as if your life depended on it. Your back was against the wall. Yep. So there was a lot of motivation, and the body responded. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I said it was the greatest gift that I could receive from my Creator, because I found the opportunity to do exactly that and earned, the right to share with people that we do have an incredible intelligence in the body, this amazing force of divine creation that regulates all the trillions of cells and creates this opportunity for homeostasis. I think it's just a miracle, to say the least. And I think sometimes we forget who we are and what we're capable of when we do turn the attention back within.
Yeah, people have a tendency to believe that they're powerless. And thus, they're powerless, they're in fear, and they're always looking out for someone to save them. It's an old paradigm that somebody's going to come save us, you see. The Savior is inner, it's an inner Savior. The presence of God is within us. The Christ is within us. The Buddha mind is within us. The Zoroaster mind it's all in us. We are here to represent that, to represent it according to our unique pattern. And until people stop looking out and start looking in and actually having some level of practice to develop a level of coherence around that, then suffering occurs. And suffering, it's not God ordained. It's definitely inevitable as one's growing, but it's not ordained. Once you have a higher vision, and then you have less pain in your life.
Oh, that's good. That is very true. I love this. I want to ask you also, I understand you might have been raised in a Christian household similar to myself. And as I grew up, I started realizing that there were a lot of wisdom teachings from around the planet. And I started to look to the ancient Indian Vedic teachings and to different teachings around the East and north, south, west, all over the world.
Yes.
And I found, as you mentioned before, that a lot of the teachings, even though somewhat different, seems to share a similar trend. I believe there's over 4,000 religions now. Many of them believe that they're right and the other ones are wrong. We understand, unity consciousness to be the number one law of the 12 universal laws. And it seems to be this synchronicity of what seems to be complementary opposites, these different versions of the same story now. kind of emerging. What are your thoughts on synchronizing and or the different seeming separate parts coming together to create the same or share the same story of who and what we are?
Well, I think, everyone is, let's just use the mountaintop as a metaphor. Everybody's trying to get to the mountaintop of their expanded awareness, call it what you will, expanded consciousness, enlightenment, nirvana, whatever. And there are many paths to that. And those paths don't disagree with each other. They rose up out of different cultures and different periods of time. So they have a different language, different perspective, different point of view, but they're not contradictory. So when you look back at the teachings of the ages, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, you look at all of these different, which I studied and it brought sanity to my awareness when I had my awakening experiences. They never contradicted each other. Now, like you said, when I was growing up, I went to a Methodist church. My family took us there. And then later on, I went to a congregational church. But when I was a teenager, I left because there didn't seem to be any congruence with what was being said and how people were living. I liked the guy Jesus. He seemed to really be very cool. But I didn't see, I heard the stories of him, but there weren't any pathways to having that kind of consciousness. So anyway, I left the church at about 15, 16 years old, and I became more agnostic. I may even call myself an atheist. And then something happened to me. I was, first of all, I was attending Morehouse College, and I went there because that was Dr. Martin Luther King's alma mater. And I met him at Homeless Methodist Church, the church I was growing up in. I actually met him. I was a little boy, shook my hand. And I remember saying to my mom, he has such soft hands. My mother said, he does a different kind of work, baby. I'll always remember that. So anyway, long story short, I'm at Morehouse. I meet a man by the name of Dr. Howard Washington Thurman. He was a great mystic, and he was the mentor to Dr. King. I remember my first lecture there, he spoke. I can't go into everything he talked about, but I remember when he walked down the aisle, I felt something. I didn't know what it was. I just felt, what is that? The next year I met him in person. I felt the same thing again. I still haven't woken up to what it was. So I transferred to USC. And there's a whole lot of story behind that. But while I was at SC, I was on my track to go to med school. I was a psychobiology major. I began to have a series of inner experiences that at the time I labeled pathological. I'm hearing voices, I'm seeing visions, I'm astral traveling. I don't even know what astral traveling is at this time, but I'm traveling. I go to my mom's house. I come back. I call her on the phone. I say, Mom, do you have on a blue dress? She said, yes. I said, are you cooking chicken right now? Yes. So I knew there was some authenticity what was happening, but I didn't know what was going on. So the first thing I did was I stopped smoking weed. I said, this has got to be the cannabis sativas that's causing all of this stuff. And so I stopped, and the experience is intensified. So to get to the end of this story, was actually the beginning of my life. There were these men, when I would leave my body at night, and these three men would be chasing me. But they were so far in the distance, I was never concerned. But every night they were a little bit closer. So one night they were very close, and I could see the outline of their face. I turned to my right, and there was a small tent with thousands of people trying to fit into this small tent. I knew every single being that was trying to get into that tent. And I said to myself, these men can't hurt me. I have all my friends with me. One by one, they turned their back on me. Two of the men held me down, and one plunged a knife in my heart. The pain was excruciating physically and emotionally. And I died. And when I woke up, I could see 360. I could see I was in one with everything. And the beauty is just undescribable. Everything was alive with his presence. And the love that was penetrating my being was beyond anything I had ever experienced. I never could get back in that box. So people thought I'd lost my mind. They thought I freaked out. I lost all my friends because this change was so sudden. So I studied Bhagavad Gita. I studied the Upanishads. I studied the ancient texts. I studied the mystical teachings of Jesus. I changed my name. I was reading about the Atman presence and Param Atman. I changed my name to Param Atman. I had a name change. And that's how I lived for a few years. I was writing these mystical teachings from that name, had a little newspaper. And then later on, I took Michael back because I didn't want to separate myself from my humanity. I wanted Michael to evolve. But as you were saying, I studied all these, Walter Russell. I studied Walter Russell. He was one of my teachers on the other side. Ernest Holmes was a teacher on the other side. Most of my teachers were dead, and we were having great conversations. And so I could see the links of all of these religions, and there was very little contradiction. The only thing that was different was history. They had different histories, and they had different interpretations of their history and different nuances based on their culture. But it was all about unity. It was all about oneness. It was all about this one being emerging as each and every one of us. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so I love my Muslim brothers, my Christian brothers, my Jewish brothers, my Buddhist brothers, my brothers who are studying Zoroaster. All of those people are at Agape. Everybody, Agape is a home for everyone. It doesn't matter what religion you come from, what your culture is. People come to celebrate the divine presence. It's very real. It's very real to me. Yeah.
Beautiful. How special. And again, what a transcendental experience. What an experience of going through. That feels and sounded like a scary and fearful process until, after the death of whatever version of you that was, when you got that dagger in your heart, that knife in your heart to reawaken.
Right.
What an experience. Do you think that might be a metaphor for what we all might be facing, not necessarily in that way, but in some ways as we come home to ourselves and to God?
Yeah, everybody has it differently. There's no, cookie cutter, this is how it's going to look. The principles are the same. Everyone has to, in some way, shape, or form, let go of limitation. Their limited belief about themselves, their limited belief about reality. Sometimes that happens dramatically. With me, that was a dramatic thing. Most of the time, it happens incrementally. That if you establish an intention, you do a level of spiritual practice, you incrementally release the debris from your perception and you begin to see differently. And sometimes the changes occur and you don't even know that they've occurred until people start to recognize something in you differently. You've changed. You used to be so worried about everything. What happened? You used to always, whatever. And then you realize a change took place. You may not even know when the change took place. It came like a thief in the night, but you're different. So sometimes it's dramatic, sometimes it's incremental. But if you have an intention in spiritual practice, it will happen. And so for me, I was hard-headed, because I'm me and a friend of mine in college at Morehouse, we used to go out on campus and convert people from Christianity to atheism. And so what did we have to do? We studied the Bible. And then we would go. And so I was hard-headed. So I think for me, it had to come in a way that was undeniable. I could not deny what had happened, what I'd seen. And then the reoccurring experiences that I've had over the last 30 years, revelation is not one and done. It's a constant unfolding. And so that initial experience, it just continues to unfold and it gets deeper, it gets more refined in me. And I find myself able to talk about it more to people because before I wouldn't talk about it that much. The evidence that I changed was just knowing me. But now I'm more willing to speak about some of the things that I've gone through.
Thank you for sharing. You know what I did for a long time, and I think this might resonate with a lot of our listeners and viewers, at least to some degree, and or maybe also to a large degree. I was completely disconnected from source, from myself. Let me rephrase. I wasn't. I felt like I was.
Yes.
And I think this is important. So I was, atheist, whatever you can, I had a belief, but I didn't have a practice. I had a thought that there was something greater than myself within and without, but I didn't have a conscious conversation or at least some sort of connection to Creator, to God. And I felt, and also, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like we're here to kind of experience a broad range of the human experience, including source disconnection, and hopefully at some point coming home
Contrast.
to source. Yeah, exactly. How knowing one without the other? How could we? This is the dichotomy of the third dimension or whatever, right? So my thought is, part of our human experience is to return home to source within our beingness in this dimension, in this experience. And so I want to get your thoughts on the power of prayer and the power of, having a practice where we are not just, asking, Creator for help when we're in despair, but perhaps also offering up an intention of, how can I serve? Show me how to walk closer to the truest path today. Show me how to live in love today. Show me how to serve and be of service. And I know you've done this at a level that I am just deeply honored to take this opportunity to ask this question, and let alone get your answer. I'd like to know power of prayer, connection to Creator, how, why, and since this is now available, what would you say? Where would you say would be a great place to deepen that devotion?
You covered a lot of material in asking that question. No, it was beautiful, because prayer is based on how a person believes what God is, and so in the immature prayer, we believe God is a man separate from us. So in the immature prayer, as you described, we're reaching out, we're begging, we're beseeching, we're asking, please God, help us, come here and give us this, that type of thing. But as you mature spiritually, you begin to be aware that the presence, I call it the presence that's never an absence. This presence is everywhere and fully everywhere. So that means that all of it is where we are. So we're not a part of God. We are the fullness of God where we are. And so prayer acknowledges that truth and opens us up to have that as a realization, not just a belief, not just a theory, not just a hypothesis, not just something we heard in a lecture and we felt good about it. But prayer, when practiced, allows us to come to an inner realization of what I'm praying for, I already have it. And what I'm doing is I'm activating it within myself. So that prayer becomes, when I teach it at Agape, we have a stage of prayer where we just become so grateful for anything or everything. That clears the perceptual windows. Then we begin to recognize this presence that's never an absence everywhere. It's in this tree. It's in my house right here. This life is everywhere. I recognize it everywhere. Now I feel I'm one with it. It's not blasphemous to feel one with God. The only blasphemy is to limit God. So I'm one with God. Now that I feel my oneness, what do? In the beginning was the Word. I speak the Word. This is my new beginning right now. In the beginning, God. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was with God. Nothing was created without the Word, the vibration, the frequency, the divine and perfect spiritual idea. Nothing is created without that. So now I speak the Word, not begging. I speak the Word knowing that as I am speaking this Word, the abundance of the universe is flowing through me right now. Divine health is absolutely moving through the cells, the mitochondria of my body temple. Even the space between my body is full of the light and the love and the beauty of the Creator. I cannot help but be healthy and prosperous, And so I'm speaking it into existence from my sense of connection. And then I give thanks for what? I give thanks that it's already done. Not that it's going to be done, but that it's done. And I release, go on about my business, and I watch that word unfold. The word becomes flesh. The invisible becomes visible. So if I'm begging, that means I don't have it. If I'm affirming and announcing, declaring and decreeing it with deep feeling, I do have it. I'm it. Now I let go of the attachment to the outcome. Ask, how can I be of service? How can I contribute? How can I share? How can I make a difference in somebody's life today? The hands of the givers are never empty. Source always supplies anyone who's trying to be a giver. So now I'm in flow with the natural law of the universe. The love is always giving of itself. I'm out of the way. So now what I have spoken into existence can manifest, because I am the vibration of the word that I spoke. Yeah.
It's a great time to just take a moment to just be with our breath and attune to that. I think this is powerful. I love how you mentioned that we can just let go of the expectation because we know that it's already done.
The manifestation is generally bigger than our present paradigm. So once we get into the feeling that it's done, it's good to re-enchant your imagination so you're not imagining worst case scenarios, that you're imagining best case scenarios. But the Spirit of God is infinite, which means there are so many ways by which blessings can flow into your life that you haven't even thought of. So you have to let go so that you're not trying to constrict the infinite to fit what you want. Because most people don't even know what they want. They got their wants from the world, from society. Then they get it, then they're not happy because it's not coming from their soul. It's not coming from their spirit, you see. And so I do an exercise with people where I have them imagine they have all of their needs met. Financial, their body temple is tip-top. They're surrounded by love. They have love, supportive friendships. They have everything they need. Now, from that space, and you feel it, ask the question, what do I want? So the one thing is now going to come from your soul. It's not going to come from your ego. It's not going to come from your personality. Oh, I want this car. I want this, I want that, I want that. Nothing wrong with that. But something deeper is going to come out. Your sense of fulfillment is going to begin to articulate a vision for your life. Because your structures are now stabilized. So now, because the things of the world, I call them structures. It's good to have a healthy body. It's good to have a financial stability. It's good to have an intellect that can understand things. When you get these structures together, that's not the end game. That's the beginning game. Now that your structures are together, you can be a great contributor to the world because you're not siphoning off energy, being a hypochondriac, going to the hospital all day. You're not constantly wasting your time trying to get more money because you've got that together. Now you can actually contribute. But what happens is many people get their financial structure together and they're still just poor people with rich money. I mean, they have a lot of money, but they're poor because they're afraid of spending a dime. I'm going to lose this dime, but it's because they forgot the universal law that as you circulate, it all comes back to you. You see, be a contributor, contribute. What are you giving to the world? What is your gift? What is your talent? Yeah.
And isn't that so special to realize that Creator has imbued us with a unique spiritual signature and a body temple. I love how you say the body temple. I want to get to this in a moment because this incredible temple where the spirit, where the soul gets to reside and express ourselves, within such divine creation. And I think sometimes people, including me having almost lost my life and, going through some challenges, we tend to neglect the beauty that we've been blessed. And we tend to take the body for granted and we abuse it. And often because we don't feel good, we end up filling it with toxins and poisons and pleasures that will reduce the energy frequency and vibration of the being itself. So I know you've focused on this, and you mentioned one of those primary pillars is the body temple. And I know also you've launched, thank God, as amazing products and services in terms of adaptogens and healings and super greens to support the body temple. And my hypothesis on this is simple. The spirit is, the body is where the spirit gets to live. My body is a gift from my creator, and I can honor my creator by taking care of my body. I can exemplify to my children how I care for my body so they can model the masters, and we can realize this incredible blessing in which this temple is. So I'd like to, if you take a moment, please, just speak to us about how you see the body, how you care for the body, and why doing so in the nutritional sense and detoxifying sense and, clean water and so on and so forth is often the first place to start, so that we can potentially fill this vessel with light. What are your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. It's called the body temple. As you've indicated, we have temples that we've created, churches and synagogues and mosques and all these beautiful temples, and people make sure that those temples are pristine. They clean it out. They polish the windows. But this is a temple. This is a temple of the living God. The living God lives right here, not limited to this, but so we have to take care of the temple as if we were taking care of a spiritual, fortress where we're going to live. And so, yes, there's, but why? Because this is a carrier of energy. The chi and the prana and the cosmic energy flows through us. And so we don't want it to be inhibited. We don't want to block it. We don't want stagnation. We want the energy to flow through us. So not only on a physical level with the food we eat and the body temple is extracting the sunshine out of the food, it's extracting all of the minerals that are in the air, the hydrogen, the oxygen, to keep this machine, this living biology going. But there's an energy field around us that uses the melanin in our skin to transmute the energy into the energy we're going to use every single day. And so it's not about vanity. Oh, I'm going to look good and I want muscles and all of that. I want to be able to carry more energy because I have a vision to live. I have a life to live. I have kids to hug. I have my kids. I have my grandkids. I have things I need to do. So I have to take care of the temple. And many people take care of their car better than they take care of their own body temple. They'll put the finest gasoline in it and then put a bunch of sugar in their tank and slowly kill the body temple before they can deliver their gift that they promised they were going to give to the planet. So as you indicated, I do have a product line. It's called Adapta Zen. And
I love this name, Adapta Zen.
Yeah. So I partner with this great herb company called NutraRise, and that was also a miracle because I was in Costa Rica and I was there to teach at the Rhythmia Life Advancement Center, but I wanted to write down. People kept asking me, "What do you take?" Because they see me doing my smoothies in the morning and blah blah. And so I got all the ingredients that I needed, and I was writing them down because I was eventually going to develop my own product. I ended up helping this woman who people thought was having a psychotic break, but I realized she wasn't having a psychotic break. She was having a Kundalini experience. She was experiencing the higher realms, coming back talking about it, and they were trying to put her on medication. I said, no. She said, what she's going through is authentic. So I worked with her for about 2 or 3 days, got her stabilized, and she was still channeling some really powerful information, but she was more integrated in her body. Anyway, my job was done there. I met her husband. So anyway, I'm writing everything down, what I want to put in my program. And her husband walks over to me and says, what are you doing? And I say, well, I want this product. I want, ashwagandha in it. I need rhodiola. I need these things in it. He says, I sell ashwagandha. I said, you sell ashwagandha? And he showed me his product. I said, I use your ashwagandha. And he says, whoop. He said, I will help you develop that at no cost to you. He says, I have the chemists, I have the biologists, I have the farmers. He says, what you did for my wife, I will help you develop it. So what was going to take me 2 or 3 years to get off the ground happened within a year because his Neutralizer is already set up. So inside of a year, I had my Adaptive Zen superfood greens, my vitamin D3K2 organic vegan,
Crucial.
super reds, my super greens. I have my 8 mushrooms, all organic, all under the aegis of Adaptive Zen. And the farmers are taken care of. I mean, it's a really beautiful way that everything's put together. But what I was doing was I was buying all those herbs myself anyway, separately, and doing my own stuff. But I was motivated because people kept asking me, how can we get what you got? And then I decided to do it. This man came along, his name is Bossum, came along and his company put it together for me. And now people get it all over the world. It's beautiful.
Thank God. And here's the key. I think it's important to understand or understand, if I may, from my experience as a nutritionist over many years, I've observed the patterns of deficiency within the human biology. And what that means specifically is that most people are deficient in a whole range of things, some of which Dr. Michael just mentioned. I think it's important. Vitamin D, magnesium, zinc.
Magnesium.
Huge, right? And of course, sunshine from vitamin D, all of these things. So one thing is to get tested, to get your blood tests and see where you are deficient, which, many, even medical doctors don't even do these tests these days. So we got to think outside the box and outside the system to get these assessments done. But I think for me anyway, I don't travel without these things. I travel with my tea and I travel with my herbs and my supplements. I mean, why not?
I have a special suitcase. All that's in my suitcase is my supplements.
That's it.
I have a small suitcase, and that's the only thing that's in there. My powders, and sometimes if I have to check in advance to see if they have some good milks there or anything, you know what I mean? And I'll travel with that. But that's sometimes the first thing I pack before I even pack my clothes.
Absolutely, I could not agree more. And it's like people ask, "What is that?" I'm like, "Food."
Right.
Food for the being.
I mean, you can't survive off of airplane food.
It's not food, Michael. It's food-like products, right?
Right. You can survive for a couple of hours, but you got to go into heavy detox.
Exactly. I'd rather fast. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yes. But so that's become our normal. Sometimes people may look at us like we're a bit much. But when you develop that habit of taking care of yourself, that becomes your new norm. It's just what you do. What do you do? When I wake up in the morning, I do some spiritual things that I do, but I go get my warm water, my lemon, my minerals. I drink that first thing that I do, before I go to my special teas and then other things that I do. But it's just a part of my lifestyle. It's a part of my way of living that allows me to be healthy and vital, energetic. I get to do so much in 1 week. If somebody were to jump into my shoes and take on the meetings that I take on, the teachings, the podcasts, the classes, the speaking on Sunday, they would have PTSD. It would be like this. But I'm able to do all of that. I'm not putting down rest. I do get my rest. That's a part of the cycle. You got to rest, got to meditate. But I'm so happy that I'm healthy. I'm so happy that I have such vitality and vigor, and start spiritually. Then you move into your biology with your nutrition, and then you have to move the body. You can't be sedentary. You have to move. And if you walk around the block for 20 minutes, killer cells are activated. You don't need to take a pharmaceutical product to get your immune system up. You just need to walk in the sunshine. Just get up and walk. Get off the couch.
Exactly. I love this. Hey, where do people go to learn more about Adaptive Zen?
They can go to Neutralize, and I'll give it to you for the show notes. And if they, those 3 lines, when you see those 3 lines, when you go, you just press those 3 lines, and it will pop up. Will be Adaptive Zen, and then my products will be there. You can get the bundle. You get one of the products. There's a special discount for first-time buyers, but it's I stand by it so people know if I put my name on it, it's going to be the real deal. Yeah,
of course, and it's like I said, not just a necessity, but I believe it's a fundamental, essential of expressing and experiencing vitality. So thank you so much for giving us somewhere to go to get these essentials. Michael, I want to segue a little bit here, because I've got some questions that I really feel my being needs to express, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, and not that that's actually a thing we know, but I'd just like your 2 cents worth on this. When I almost died, I realized, quote unquote, that everything is energy. I realized that I carried patterns and programs from my lineage and parents who didn't serve me anymore. There were thoughts, there were emotions, there were beliefs, there were traumas and imprints and so on. And so I started the process of removing interference. I started to look at the things that didn't serve me, as in thoughts and emotions and the other things I mentioned. And I started to ask the question, how would love respond? How is this happening for me, not to me? How can I turn fear to fuel, trauma to transformation? How is this happening for my greater good? And so on and so forth. And so as I went through this, I dived into a similar hypothesis to that of Qigong, which is the accumulation of life force energy. I love and honor your devotion to spirit and consciousness and divinity without the dogmatic aspect of separation. As in, you can't talk about the chakras because you're a Christian. We do see dogma and the illusion of separation through manipulation of religion or whatever we want to, discuss. I wanted to get your take on this, because what I discovered when I studied the ancient Indian lineage, you mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, for example, is the energy system, the chakra system. And I realized how there is interference patterns. So, for example, the first energy center, which pertains to groundedness and stability, feeling grounded, feeling safe, letting go of the fight or flight and being present and feeling that there is no fear here. There is, we're safe, is often blocked by fear. I found the second center blocked by guilt, the third one blocked by shame, the fourth one blocked by grief, and I think you get the point. And so I developed a curriculum where I would take students through a process of acknowledging, firstly, who they are. I am spirit and consciousness having a human experience, and if I am that I am, well, then maybe life didn't happen to me. Maybe that fear, that trauma, when I was bullied, when I was 7, I lost my wife and something happened. It could have been anything. Maybe that has happened for me, and we can't change the past. We can certainly change the meaning. So we then turn fear to fuel, and then guilt to gratitude, and so on. And it's a bit of an alchemical process from the lower to the higher centers. And the hypothesis is to remove interference, like I mentioned, thoughts, patterns, indoctrinations, emotions, and the different parts of the body.
Absolutely.
To one, purify, and two, fill up with prana, chi, and light. And so I'd like to just, as I present that hypothesis, get your 2 cents worth on it, because I'm seeing a lot of incredible things happening with our students when they do let go of these programs, when they do let go of, not feeling good enough, not having deep love for themselves, and addictions clear. And so many things are happening by simply removing interference from the energy system. I'd love your thoughts on the matter, please.
Yes, the way you articulated that was fantastic. And when we get rid of the static on the line, then we can hear the eternal broadcast that wants to flow through us, and all of that energy all through the chakra systems. Everything flows, and you begin to realize that you are more than the body temple. The body temple is an abode that part of you is aware of. But you covered a lot of material. I mean, you talked about the Qigong energy. I do a certain practice every morning. I do it on magnets. I stand on these very powerful magnets, and I do, the energy. I do a lot of that kind of work myself. But I clear the system, and then as I know you do this as well. And then all of that energy starts to flow through your hands, and you can actually not only clear your own body temple, but you can help other people. That's what I call it's natural, but it's super. So it's supernatural healing. But everything you just described that you do with your students is absolutely on target, and I feel your essence, and your students are very fortunate to have found you, because what you just described is everything that we've just talked about in a nutshell. You have the detoxification, you have the releasing of the static from the different chakras, the different aspects, all through the throat, the eye, the top of the head, everything that allows us to be clear, pristine, like a crystal. A clear crystal clear, pristine. And then what happens is we're not attracting, we're radiating. You go from attracting things into your life, you actually radiate from your center everywhere. You radiate these high tonal quality frequencies. And then that radiation and that radiance and radiation then provides, you become a paramagnetic field that brings into your field more than you can imagine. You start to, there's an old scripture that says, even before they finish praying, I've already answered. Even though you start to receive things you don't even know you need, because you're the field. You're now the field of it. Mm-hmm. So it just falls into your experience. You meet new people, experiences, opportunities, possibilities. But the way you described it, I can't improve upon that. It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, it's an honor, and I don't take any credit for the work. I'm simply but the custodian of something and the vessel of messages. But it is divine to see how this process of purification is actually so simple. And when we remove the static, we just come home to what is light. And what a powerful thing to see what the body and being is capable of in that state.
Here's two things. One, we remove the static. I say that there's an eternal broadcast going on. The let there be is still happening everywhere. And we can't hear it because of the static. We have the beliefs, the points of view, the positions, the positionalities, the perceptions, the way we've been imprinted. That's the static. And when we begin to clear up the static, we start to hear. We don't hear with our ears. We hear with the consciousness that created the ear, because form precedes consciousness. So we see not with eyes, but we see with our awareness. And this broadcast that I saw years ago and continue to see is just teeming with life and love and beauty everywhere. You start to really live in a different world. And then the homecoming, it's not that you're going back to God. You actually realize you're emanating from God. You're coming from the presence. And then you're bringing the presence everywhere you are. So you're bringing heaven to earth. You're not going to heaven. You're bringing it. You're bringing the love. You're bringing the peace, the generosity, the flow. And anyone who's bringing it at that mystical level, it never runs out. It's mystical. It doesn't run out. There's no on and off button in it. It's just the flow. And then you have to take care of the temple so you don't burn yourself out. You got to give it nutrition, good hydration, good green stuff. You got to rest. It's like a pet. You got to rest it. You got to walk it. You got to feed it. You got to bathe it. And it will take care of you for a long time. It'll be your instrument of mobility in 3D for a long time. If that's your soul agreement,
The soul agreement. What an opportunity.
Yeah.
Wow. I can sense the grace in this moment. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge again what you were able to bring forth and the messages that you've shared. And I want to take a moment to also acknowledge our listeners and viewers. If you're watching this, if you're tuning to this right now and you're feeling what is happening now, moreover than just intellectualizing the words and the messages, attune to that and know that this is within you. And there's nothing, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Michael has done or achieved that, we can't do or achieve when we do tap into this infinite divine potential.
That's it. That's it right there. Yeah.
So what does this mean? Maybe listen to this again. Maybe send it to 5 to 10 people and say, hey, listen to this conversation. Maybe this will be of benefit to you. And so I want to thank listeners and viewers for tuning in also and being part of this transmission, because as we know, we can go very far by sharing something so simple yet so profound.
If it's not simple, it may not be the real deal, because it is very simple, but you have to practice. So if you have a belief that you're one with God or that abundance is everywhere, you have to have some level of practice so that belief becomes an insight, and that an insight becomes an embodiment. And then that embodiment becomes action. And then action becomes a lifestyle. Then a lifestyle becomes a way of life. So it goes from belief all the way to the way you live your life. And then when you're living your life a certain way, you're living at a different octave. You become a tuning fork that you affect every environment you go into, even if you don't say a word, because your field has already gone into that. Your field is way beyond the body. Your field goes into a room and people feel peace. I feel better. What's going on? You don't have to say anything. Just as you can tell when a killjoy walks in a room, and their energy is contracted and they're trying to get something or get over on somebody, you can feel that energy. The same way we become tuning forks, and the field that we carry uplifts, heals, inspires, makes people feel good about themselves, and it's not us, but it is us, it's coming through us, but it's coming through us as us, it's a beautiful way to live. How can I serve today?
Well, that you have done. I don't know about listeners and viewers. I have a bit of an intuition, but for me, I can't stop smiling. I'm honored, and again, just sensing the grace in the space. What a blessing it is to be alive, man. I woke up with breath today.
That's it.
Incredible.
Here you go.
Okay, last question, straight off the cuff. Are you ready, sir?
Sure.
I'd love to have you back. This has been an incredible conversation, so thanks again.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you. So be it. Question for you. I want you now to imagine, and this, you're not a stranger to this concept, but hear me out. You're on the world stage. Every sentient being alive has gathered. They're listening. They're tuning in to your message to the world right now. When you're ready, take a breath and do share. What is your message to the world right now, please?
What I want each and every being to be aware of is that as I'm speaking this very word, there's a frequency and a vibration that's under the word that I'm speaking. And it's inviting you to remember that before you even got here, you promised that you were going to release life energy according to your uniqueness, that you were going to move beyond immature competition and comparison. You were going to remember and discover your uniqueness in this field of infinite potential, infinite possibilities. You as the unique expression of God, which is your superpower, by the way, your uniqueness is your superpower, that you said to yourself that you were going to develop and cultivate your gifts and talents and expand your capacity for more life energy, and you were going to share it before you exited the body temple. You promised you were not going to get caught up in the conspiracy for mediocrity and be pulled into the fame game, to be pulled into gross materialism. You promised that you were going to be so fulfilled with the abundance that is everywhere that you were going to live from the overflow, and that you were going to meet individuals like yourself and create pockets of possibility, pioneers for the possible, to create a tipping point so that where we're all eventually going, you were going to help create the condition that people will spontaneously wake up, realize that they're never separated from their Creator, and that they're here to represent the Creator and to create heaven on earth. That is what you signed on for when you got here. Remember, let's activate the mystic chord of memory. Remember your promise and live it fully, and you'll be met with such grace that it'll shock your surface mind. That's what I would tell people. They're greater than they think they are, and they have everything they need. They just have to unpack it.
Amen.
Amen.
I have to close it by saying that was excellent. Whew. Thank you.
And so it is.
And so it is. And so it is. Thank you so much. I don't think it's necessary. I think people feel it, but just so we cover the basis, where do people go to learn more about this? I would highly highly speak to the opportunity to learn more about your work, and maybe even visit Agape, practice some of your meditations, obviously, infuse themselves with the blessings of the nutritional supplements that we've discussed. But where does one go to stay more in this energy, please?
They can go to agapelive.com, agapelive.com. There you'll see my Sunday talks in the archive. They can watch it. We have many people that stream in every Sunday to different time from Australia. We had a woman that came from Burning Man last week, came to Agape, and is now decided to stay because of Agape. She's joining our choir. So we have a lot of people that tune in from Australia. They can go to michaelbeckwith.com and see what I'm doing personally, where I'm speaking around the world, tech classes that I'm offering. So either place is going to give you what I'm doing, what classes I'm offering, and things of that particular nature. I have a pretty robust presence on Instagram, and I put something on there pretty much every day, something inspirational. My podcast is called Take Back Your Mind. So every podcast, you can find it anywhere. This week I have Zach Bush on there with me.
What a legend.
Yeah, so we're tight, and my buddy Bruce Lipton, Sue Mortar, Jan Levin Zan, so many people, they're our buddies of mine, we had good conversations. So Take Back Your Mind drops every Wednesday, and then Take Back Your Mind Life Question of the Week drops every Friday. People writing questions and I answer on that. So that's kind of where it is. Agape, Take Back Your Mind, my personal website, there's Facebook, there's TikTok, it's all over.
Thank God.
I'm trying to keep my promise.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Oh, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael Beckwith. It has been a true privilege and pleasure. Thank you for reminding us of what we intuitively deep down know to be real. Thank you for inspiring the spark in us to bring us back to the truth of who we are and our connection to our Creator. It's been an honor having this conversation. I can't wait to have you back. And I, for one, am incredibly grateful for your time and for your words.
Absolutely. One day I'll see you in Australia. Maybe one day I'll see you at Agape, but we will see each other again.
God bless.
Absolutely. I am receiving the blessings.
So it is.
Amen.
Michael Beckwith, everybody.